a digital haze, looking for love in modern days. 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast. Yeah, 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast.
Welcome back to 21st Century Dating Decoded, the authoritative audio publication of the Speed Mingle community, where we bypass superficial digital facades to critically analyze the complexities of the contemporary romantic landscape. I am your host, Dawn. Those who have engaged with major social media platforms such as TikTok, Instagram, or X in recent weeks will undoubtedly be aware that the digital sphere has increasingly reduced interpersonal courtship to an aggressive exercise in statistical quantification. In this session, we conduct a comprehensive examination into the epicenter of this digital discourse, the 4/6s phenomenon. For those fortunate enough to have remained insulated from recent algorithmic trends, the 4/6s represents a viral, hyper-specific socio-physical rubric. This checklist posits that a male partner's baseline eligibility is contingent upon a rigid, fourfold matrix, an anatomical height of no less than 6 feet, an annual financial yield exceeding 6 figures, the cultivation of six-pack abdominal muscles, and an anatomical attribute dictated by genetic predetermination exceeding 6 inches. What originated as satirical digital ephemera has since metastasized into a profound cultural flashpoint, polarizing demographics across the demographic spectrum. Throughout this episode, we shall systematically deconstruct the psychological and sociological mechanisms underpinning this trend. We will investigate whether this paradigm is merely a manifestation of harmless online hyperbole, or if the gamification inherent in modern interface design has fundamentally compromised collective romantic psychology. Our analysis will evaluate the mathematical improbability of these criteria, which statistically disqualify upwards of 95% of the male population, while simultaneously examining the burgeoning institutional countermovement of contemporary singles, actively repudiating these artificial standards. Ultimately, we address how a culture predicated on perpetual digital consumption has effectively commodified human beings into rigid, transactional checklists. We invite you to settle in as we decode the societal shift that occurs when superficial metrics trigger widespread digital backlash, and isolate the substantive virtues that authentic daters prioritize once digital interfaces are discarded. We shall now begin the analysis. A highly reductionist and superficial dating rubric has recently proliferated across prominent social media platforms, including TikTok, Instagram, and X, formerly Twitter, igniting a polarizing discourse on contemporary courtship. Termed the 4/6s, this viral checklist prescribes an uncompromising synthesis of physical and financial attributes that proponents argue a male partner must possess to qualify as a viable suitor. What originated as a superficial internet meme has rapidly metastasized into a significant cultural flashpoint. The phenomenon has catalyzed an extensive counter-movement spearheaded by relationship specialists, psychologists, and disillusioned singles, all of whom condemn these criteria as toxic, statistically improbable, and fundamentally detrimental to the architecture of healthy romantic relationships. Deconstructing the analytical framework of the viral trend, the 4/6s paradigm evaluates an individual's relational worth through 4 hyperspecific, quantifiable metrics: a minimum height of 6 feet, an anatomical requirement that immediately disqualifies approximately 85% of the global male population, a 6-figure annual income, a socio-economic benchmark that restricts eligibility to an elite bracket of top earners, 6-pack abdominal muscles, a physical standard demanding rigorous, highly disciplined athletic conditioning, and an unsustainably low body fat percentage. An anatomical metric exceeding 6 inches, a physiological attribute dictated entirely by genetic predetermination, propelled by platform algorithms designed to maximize engagement through controversy. This checklist has achieved exponential reach. The digital landscape is subsequently saturated with street-side interview formats, reactionary commentary, and contentious podcast debates, all of which reify these arbitrary metrics. Despite the considerable digital traction of the 4/6s trend, it has generated an equally robust and oppositional ideological reaction. Instead of internalizing these superficial mandates, a burgeoning demographic of modern daters is utilizing the framework as a case study in dysfunctional relationship ideology. Behavioral experts and relationship therapists have systematically deconstructed the trend, cautioning that adherence to such rigid, one-dimensional parameters inevitably fosters interpersonal alienation and relational failure. When interpersonal connection is reduced to a quantitative spreadsheet of physical and financial variables, the foundational elements that sustain long-term partnerships are entirely bypassed, notes prominent relationship therapist Dr. Elena Rostova. A 6-figure revenue stream or an athletic physique is incapable of providing emotional security, mutual respect, or alignment in core values. Consequently, counter-narratives such as the #BeyondThesexes have gained significant momentum. This movement consciously pivots the collective focus away from superficial aesthetics toward non-quantifiable substantive virtues, including emotional intelligence, psychological safety, and intrinsic kindness. The structural implications of algorithmic courtship have fundamentally altered the landscape of modern romance, giving rise to profound consumer fatigue and dividing dating culture into two polarized paradigms: the hyper-quantified 4-6s model and the emerging relational countermovement. In terms of primary focus, the 4-6s model reduces human connection to rigid, superficial, and easily gamified metrics, typically prioritizing quantifiable data points such as wealth, height, and specific anatomical ideals. This data-driven approach treats partners as commodities to be filtered and sorted, a stark contrast to the relational countermovement, which redirects focus toward qualitative attributes. This countermovement prioritizes deeply human elements like empathy, shared core values, emotional intelligence, and intrinsic character, viewing compatibility as an evolving dialogue rather than a matching score. This divergence in focus dictates the socioeconomic feasibility of each model, establishing entirely different barriers to entry. Because the 4-6s model relies on highly specific, top-tier statistical benchmarks, it is inherently exclusive and elite, reserved for a fraction of the population capable of meeting these hyper-curated standards. This exclusivity fuels an exhausting, competitive market dynamic that leaves the majority of users feeling marginalized. Conversely, the relational counter-movement is universally accessible and fundamentally inclusive. By basing connection on emotional capacity and character, rather than socioeconomic status or genetic lottery, it democratizes romance and restores a sense of agency to the average individual. Ultimately, these structural dynamics dictate the psychological impact of modern courtship, directly driving or alleviating consumer fatigue. The relentless optimization of the 4-6s model breeds heightened anxiety, chronic inadequacy, and a pervasive sense of superficial objectification, as users find themselves trapped in a continuous cycle of appraisal and rejection. The relational counter-movement serves as a vital antidote to this burnout. By fostering emotional security and authentic validation, it replaces the transactional exhaustion of the swipe economy with a grounding, restorative framework that prioritizes genuine human dignity over algorithmic convenience. Sociological and industry analysts suggest that the furor surrounding the 4-6s is symptomatic of a broader, systemic exhaustion with contemporary digital romance. Years of reliance on swipe-based dating applications have effectively gamified the courtship process, inducing a psychological phenomenon known as dating app fatigue. Within this hyper-commodified ecosystem, prospective partners are frequently evaluated as consumer products rather than complex human beings. The intensifying backlash against the 4-6s signifies a potential paradigm shift. By collectively repudiating these rigid digital standards, contemporary daters are signaling a societal desire to reject algorithmic superficiality in favor of authentic communication, emotional vulnerability, and substantive, unvarnished human connection. This concludes our analytical examination for this session. As we have observed through this discourse, the 4-6s phenomenon extends far beyond the parameters of a transient internet meme. It serves as a stark diagnostic reflection of how modern digital platforms have systematically gamified and commodified human connection. When we allow algorithmic frameworks to reduce the profound, non-linear complexity of human compatibility to a rigid, statistically improbable spreadsheet, we do not merely alienate potential partners. We fundamentally compromise our collective capacity for genuine intimacy. The mathematical reality is that these arbitrary metrics exclude the vast majority of the population, yet the psychological reality is even more damaging, fostering an ecosystem of perpetual dissatisfaction, chronic rejection, and profound dating app fatigue. However, if there is an optimistic takeaway from the widespread digital backlash we explored today, it is that the cultural pendulum appears to be swinging back toward equilibrium. The rising momentum of grassroots countermovements, such as #BeyondThe6s, demonstrates a collective exhaustion with superficial facades. Contemporary daters are actively choosing to look past arbitrary numerical metrics, demanding instead a return to foundational virtues, emotional intelligence, psychological safety, and authentic vulnerability. In the final analysis, a six-figure revenue stream or an athletic physique can never serve as a substitute for mutual respect and shared values. When the digital screens are deactivated, it is the unpolished, unquantifiable human connection that sustains us. As we navigate this cultural shift away from superficial validation, SpeedMingle is strategically positioned to offer the efficient frontier for this new era of interpersonal romance. Our platform provides a sophisticated suite of social tools engineered to minimize emotional risk and maximize opportunities for genuine connection. moving users beyond aimless algorithmic swiping to the formation of substantive relationships. Speed Mingle is currently transforming contemporary courtship through 6 distinct, intentional, and highly efficient modalities. Speed Mingle Anywhere facilitates authentic, high-definition, face-to-face video interactions from a user's private setting, effectively overcoming the structural limitations and deceptive practices inherent in anonymous text-based swiping. Speed Mingle Social offers relaxed, non-hosted weekly gatherings at established local venues, curated to foster spontaneous, organic, and informal connections within a secure social environment. Speed Mingle Happenings, meticulously curated, dynamic, activity-based events designed to facilitate natural engagement and shared experiences, bypassing the artificial pressures of conventional small talk. Speed Mingle Neighbors, engineered to mitigate suburban and urban isolation, this modality transforms proximity into community. Through high-energy, curated social events, it converts strangers within the same residential complexes or neighborhoods into foundational friends. This framework exchanges polite social compliance for shared narratives and fast-paced engagement, requiring no romantic intent, merely a shared commitment to building a vibrant, localized collective. Speed Mingle B2B. Optimized for the time-conscious professional, this high-octane networking experience eliminates the inefficiencies of traditional, sluggish professional mixers. Utilizing a structured round-robin format, it curtails unproductive, protracted conversations to ensure rapid access to high-value professional connections, maximizing your strategic network within a singular, high-efficiency session. Speed Mingle 1-to-1, launching summer 2026. Provides highly personalized, low-pressure introductions with local singles whose pre-vetted interests, core values, and lifestyle preferences ensure an efficient route toward foundational compatibility. Our organizational commitment is to offer diverse asset classes for human connection, preventing users from concentrating all their emotional investments into a single, volatile dating strategy. Whether an individual prefers the operational efficiency of our premier online platform, a curated experiential event, a personalized introduction, or a spontaneous social gathering, Speed Mingle offers a tailored strategy optimized for every relational preference. A successful interpersonal portfolio is always predicated upon intentionality, structural diversification, and genuine connection. Our upcoming broadcast next week. In our subsequent broadcast, we will pivot from superficial metrics to tactical deception in the modern dating landscape, exploring a phenomenon known as the foodie call. We will systematically deconstruct the psychological underpinnings, the behavioral red flags, and the ethical implications of the serial diner, individuals who leverage romantic interest purely for complementary culinary experiences. Is this practice a harmless perk of singlehood or a flagrant violation of courtship etiquette? Our analysis will be unsparing. Our broadcast syndication and distribution channels. Access our comprehensive audio catalog on all premium podcast networks, including Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, Audible, iHeartRadio, and Deezer. Access premium, high-definition video content on YouTube, Roku, Amazon Fire TV, accessible by searching for Speed Mingle TV Network within the application interface, or via the HRB TV Network, our parent company's dedicated broadcast channel. Ensure you remain ahead of contemporary sociological trends. Secure immediate access to all future broadcast segments by subscribing directly at our digital headquarters, 21st Century Dating Decoded.riverside.com. If you valued this episode and found our discourse on abandoning prescribed dating narratives informative, we request that you execute the following operational actions. Activate the subscription mechanism on your preferred platform immediately to ensure uninterrupted content delivery. Provide a formal 5-star review to optimize our algorithmic visibility, thereby assisting other discerning listeners in discovering our program. Disseminate this broadcast link to an acquaintance who continues to utilize an outdated, poorly illuminated corporate headshot, enhanced with an expired digital filter. Their future romantic prospects will be profoundly appreciative of the intervention. Furthermore, we encourage you to secure your reservation at an upcoming Speed Mingle event within your metropolitan area. Take the initiative to mix, match, and mingle to enhance the yield of your social portfolio. Thank you for your continued listenership and viewership of 21st Century Dating Decoded. Until our subsequent session, remain deliberate, maintain your psychological boundaries, and consistently date with a defined, strategic purpose. Good afternoon and have a great weekend. Search thespeedmingle.com for an event in your area and heat up your summer social life.
Thank you for listening and watching 21st Century Dating Decoded, the official Speed Mingle podcast.
On the new Speed Mingle TV network.